I think I'm Big Meech, Larry Hoover, whipping work. Hallelujah. One nation under God. In case you're new here, well, this is Grown Movies and TV. I am your humble and most honorable host, Real. And we here for another episode recap of that good BMF, Black Mafia Family, Season 4, Episode 3, entitled Good Faith. Let me know you're here. Hit the like button, subscribe if you're new. And if you don't feel like doing all that, which I don't blame you, just put a 1 in the goddamn comments, okay? Let me know you stopped through. Let a player know. We got a good show for you, all right? So with that said, let's just get right down to brass tacks, shall we?
House music.
So we start this episode off with these cats still meandering in the damn Mexican desert. But now they off foot and on wheels, face down in smuggle mode on a damn fruit and vegetable truck. Goddamn loose potatoes and peppers was everywhere. And in some crates, underneath all the vegetation, lie T, Meech, and Loco, trying to get back to Loco's crib, trying to get home. Once there was a way to get back home. Once there was a way to get back home. Sleep, pretty darling, do not cry. And I will sing a lullaby. Oh, there's gonna be some singing this motherfucking episode. Y'all know what the I'm talking about. The goddamn truck is rolling. But at some point gets stopped by some goddamn bandits, looking for fugitives. Apparently, the Mexican desert is so full of cats who done left a wallet and some bodies in El Segundo and fled to the damn Mexican border. That vigilante bounty hunting is a bona fide way to eat. I don't know. I ain't mad at it, though. Now, Meech, T, and Loco hear the conversation popping off, Then they hear gunshots. Bandits ain't have no time for small talk, They like, y'all got fugitives in the back? No? Blah! We'll be the judge of that. Sent the truck drivers up to meet Jesus, See you at the crossroads. And they get to searching the damn truck. Find Salt Bounty, a.k.a. Loco, Had paperwork with Loco grill and a peso amount under that bitch. Bandits was like, oh yeah, we gonna eat tonight. But somehow Loco and the Flennory brothers get the best of the bad news bandits. Somehow T got the smacking a mofo upside the goddamn head with a suspiciously placed cast iron skillet and shit. You know, like one of them old school 10-pound forged iron joints. The one you gotta hold with your damn good arm. You know, like where'd the goddamn frying pan come from? Like these mofos, well, they get hungry sometimes, you know. Driving the truck around all day, you know. Might find themselves in the mood to shuck a little corn, you know, skin some taters, you know. Start a damn fire and get they hot ass desert grub on. Anyway, they all make it up out that piece, BMF and Loco, that is, you know, not the bandits so much. And that's how we start the episode, on another damn flashback. I know these cats was restless, you know, among other things. I mean, it was a 3-day trek, according to Loco. Like, once these cats get home, I know goddamn T don't even want to hear the word Mexico, you know. Like, don't want to go back. Damn a vacay in Cabo, Cancun, Puerto Vallarta, you know. Don't want to see a taco, burrito, or chalupa. Ever, ever, ever. Now, getting back to current time. T and Hoop back up in T spot, you know. T tripping up in the spot, losing it. He throwing shit. Hoop like, watch what you doing. As best as you can, you know. Why they do T like that, you know. T tripping because the work they was expecting. Well, J-Pusha got that out in the loo. And now ain't answering T's calls. But did he ever though? I mean, that ain't much of a goddamn surprise. And while they up in the spot, Markesha drop in, you know, also tripping. Cause like everybody else working with T, well, she was also expecting that work, you know, so she could do her thing with Isaac Roberts, you know, the Mr. Hanky of dope distributors, you know. And T tell Markesha he don't know what happened, but he gonna find out, you know. She take his ass to task a little in front of Hoop. She like, you gonna find out. Reminds T that he a boss, not an errand boy, and to tighten his shit up, you know, and do what bosses do. Now in the A, Meech and Duffy having a similar type of convo. Like, where the is J-Pusha? And what he doing with the work? Because, you know, nobody knows what's happening with that dope. Like, everybody in the dark. And that being the case, Meech ain't really tripping, though, you know. But he concerned that Duffy is a little too much for his liking. And Duffy eventually explains, yeah, he a little shook, you know. Cause Bryant in town and might be after his ass cause of some old dirt he did in the D some time back. You know, Duffy apparently put a cat down, you know, a cat who was a bystander, and he feeling some type of way about it. Meanwhile, back in the D, Nikki on the phone getting a little rap, and I do mean little, with her little boo Breeze, who is now up on his college campus, you know, getting familiar. Asses everywhere, you know, and he miles away from parents and parental rules around little youngins, his peers who in the same damn boat. And if you been in Breeze's shoes, and had that college experience living on campus, Well, you know the type of debauchery that go down. You know it. Before it ever went down in the DM, it went down in them dorms. I lie to you not. Little player Breeze looked like he was bout it too. He on the phone with Nikki. Two shorties passing him by. She keeps on passing me by. And as they do, one of the young ladies hands him a flyer, the infamous flyer, about some type of party or gathering that was happening. Because it was always something happening on a college campus, especially when you first get there, because it was probably Friday. And like Craig, everybody know you ain't got shit to do. Second young lady playfully touches him on the shoulder, like felt his shoulder up, like gave him that non-verbal cue. Come on through, player, you welcome. That silent promotion. But the flyer and the gentle touch wasn't enough for little player Breeze. No. Told shorties to hold up. Told Nikki he had some shit to do. Nikki like, love you. Nikki like, love you. Little player Breeze like, yup. Hung that goddamn phone up with a quickness. No love you. And he breezed the up out of there, Out of that damn open payphone booth. Remember goddamn payphones? Went and hollered at little shorties. After Nikki get off the phone with little Breeze, she learns that her mama about to be escorting her to school, for her orientation at Morris Brown. Something she thought she was going to be doing alone. Thought she was going to get some Breeze and Wheeze time in, Of course, Nikki was hating this idea of her mama coming. But Lucille was on that Mickey D's. Had the Happy Meal with the toy and all of that. She was loving it. Loving the fact that she would get out a little. But mainly loving the fact that Nikki wasn't loving it, And at some point, Mama Lucille, T, and darling Nikki make their way down to the A, popped up on old Meech, who was about to get lucky with Lucky. They up in the crib, drugs and drank on deck. Asses in the air, getting slapped up. It's about to be broke off something proper. They come up in the crib, the Flennories. Lucille was all smiles at first, digging Meech's digs. She like, oh, it's like that down here in the A. You living like that, Meechy, huh? At some point comes across Lucky ass and thought she was in a bankhead hojo and shit. Called Meech's spot a den of wickedness. Like, when's the last time you heard a mofo refer to a spot as a den? Looked straight at Lucky. Said, son, I didn't know you had hoes up in here. She ain't mean it loosely either. She meant whore. There's some hoes in this house. There's some hoes in this house. There's some hoes in this house. There's, oh, na-na, said it, oh, na-na. Called Lucky a hoe and all of that. Said some hoes was up in Meech's house. She like, it's a good thing I came when I did. Cause I thought shit in the A was peachy. I ain't know you had hoes up in here, Meechy. Lucille ain't never even seen Lucky before. Ain't know who she was. Ain't been in the house but 30 seconds. Knew Lucky was out there like that. T and Nikki on the side feeling Lucky pain. They looking like, here she go. Talking about they mama. Lucky hit Lucille with the head and neck tilt back like, what the f***? Meech tell Lucky his mama is a pastor. Lucky get to stammering. She like, well, I for one love the Lord. She like, I praise him on a daily. Like Lucky be up in the club like, Lord, don't let me slip and fall off this sweaty ass, nasty ass pole up in here tonight, Lord Jesus. She tell Lucille she Methodist, Baptist, Buddhist, all the ists. Lucille tell Meech either she go or I go. Ain't got time for Beelzebub and his goddamn tomfoolery up in here, And Meech get Lucky to f*** up out of there. Then Lucille tell Meech, guess what, little player? You coming to church with me on Sunday, 'cause you need Jesus. At some point, Lucille and Nikki head out to Morris Brown. And while they getting oriented with the campus, walking on the yard and such, Lucille meets an AKA, a member of the prestigious Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, And they hit it off perfect. They had this lady, this AKA, representing that old school negative AKA stereotype, arrogant. Some might say uppity, Like had her quick to get a little snippy. Now, I can tell you the ones I know, they didn't move like that. Don't get it wrong. It was still a serious goddamn matter. But they wasn't how this lady was being represented. But anyway, that's the show. It was friendly at first. Lady gives Lucille a free book, And they get a little rap about Maya Angelou and Toni Morrison, who, as pointed out by the lady, also happen to be AKAs. Then she asked Lucille if she pledged a sorority. Lucille like, yeah, told the lady she always thought that sororities were too cliquish for her. Now, I probably wouldn't have told somebody who I thought was part of a clique that they were part of said clique, But that's just me. And I'm not Lucille. And I also wouldn't have responded the way this AKA did, like we all grown here. And everything ain't for everybody, And we would just leave it at that. But that's not how this conversation went down. Because this is a goddamn show. And she calls Lucille an outsider. Said that's what all outsiders would think, That the fraternities and sororities are cliquish. And the conversation goes 85 south from there. And after some back and forth, Lucille storms the hell off, packs up Nikki, peace the hell up out of there, gets back home to a goddamn fur coat from Meech. That shit was like full mountain bear. Like Mr. Ranger got tired of Yogi and Boo Boo shit. Skin them bitch clean. Now this coat, Lucille Mickey D's loving it. But struggling with the whole I must struggle because I'm a servant of the Lord mindset, Make no mistake, she took the damn coat. That coat went back home to the D. And at some point, the Flennorys make their way to the church, to get that church wrap. Lord, this church got valet parking. ATMs with Brinks trucks backing up to them, taking money out from the services prior. Goddamn church also had a cut rate liquor store across the street and a bail bond spot. What the f? Like this church was ghetto fabulous and all of that. Don't hate on us, we're fabulous. Charge that to the game. Yo, the church was ghetto fabulous. Don't hate. They seeing strippers from church up in that piece and all of that, Like you might be a heathen from Monday to Saturday. But Sunday is the day of the Lord, praise God. And all shall praise his name in good goddamn accord, okay? And they get up in the spot, meet Laz and his grandma. Then a cat looking like Andre 3000 and Big Boy rolled up into one. Goddamn Big Dre 2500. Goddamn Big Dre 4500. Come and usher them to their seats. Like Lil Player's perm was hella proper. But I ain't like the way he moved, I like the way you move. Because after he seated him, as ushers are supposed to do, no tip. This cat had his hand out, looking for a tip. He like, Pastor preaching that day was the homie Mr. Clifton Powell. I liked him as a preacher, had me wanting to go to church. When my man left the pulpit and walked down the main church aisle, walked down Jesus's red carpet, they was throwing that money, wasn't they? Had two sisters in back of his ass with a goddamn broom and bill catcher. Sweeping up Jacksons. I ain't talking LaToya and goddamn Tito, okay? They wasn't missing a goddamn cent. If a penny was thrown today, they was catching it. After the ceremony, Lucille goes over, has a little chat with the pastor. Preacher to preacher, pastor to pastor, whoever. Lord servant to Lord servant. And they get a little rap about differences in regard to riches and how preachers should preach to their congregations, And he tell her the way he do attracts more folks. He like, I live, love, preach and praise Jesus. But ain't nothing wrong with a little peace, prosperity, and a little paper, Told her God don't dim the light of his stars, those that preach his message, Told Lucille that in fact, the stars guide the way, and he don't dim that light. And he peace up out of there, to get ready for the next service. And while that's happening, Nikki takes Meech to task about how he got her hemmed up. This the first time they seen each other since she got caught up in that Honda. A little friendly, lighthearted, but serious chat between siblings. And at some point they all pieced the hell up out of there. Now, what was happening with Charles all this time back in the D, you ask? Well, at some point Charles was down at T restaurant, having a little taste of some home-cooked food, Some old school Donny Hathaway and Roberta Flack is playing on the radio in the background, It's a good little vibe, And Charles all up in it. One of the waitresses up in the joint serving folks, giving off some good vibes, just what Charles is in need of right about now. Just a humming, singing. Where is the love? Where is the love? Where is the love? Where is the love? She's singing her ass off. Charles down at the end of the goddamn bar getting a little captivated. You know, Charles was so captivated his ass started joining in. He down at the other end of the counter looking like a little kid. He like, where is the love? Charles was like this. Where is the love? Like it was goddamn call and response karaoke day up in T-Spot. And they get a little rap, introduce themselves, you know. She tell Charles, I know who you are. You play that instrument. And a player who good with his fingers, most likely gonna be good with his hands. Good Lord. She behind the counter turning her own damn self on. Think about Charles's hands strumming her strings and shit, you know. Cecilia was her name. It get a little passive-aggressive, low-key lusty up in that piece, you know. And they hit it off, so it seems. At some point, Charles ended up at B-Mickie's, who invited him over for dinner after church service one day. Charles still captivated by Cecilia. Like, this is days later. He get to talking about it to B-Mickie and his lady. Dropped a name and all of that, you know. Let them know that him and Lucille are no more. Even though they still reside together, you know. And now he trying to get to know this lady he just met, you know. Look, when you get older, you move a little quicker with them goddamn connections. You know, ain't got no time to f around. Shit, you running out of time. Shit, when you get over 50, week 1 you dating. By week 5, you done moved in. By week 6, you married, on the will and all of that. You know, old players don't be f***ing around. I kid you not. Shit, if a mofo got all they teeth, you know. Even if a mofo don't. Sometimes you be like, look. Let's do this. What the f*** are we waiting for? Bitch, I could be dead tomorrow. B-Mickie and his lady happy for Charles. Charles appreciate the convo so much so. Finds himself in a helpful goddamn mood, you know. Tells B-Mickie he gonna help him tighten up his crib and all of that, you know. This mofo, Cecilia, got this mother wanting to be handy and shit. Said B-Mickie crib looked like it needed some work. I'm thinking, Charles. I know you in a good mood and all, but let me tell you something. Come here. Come here, player. Yo, my crib needs some work now, don't it? Might make things back at home a little smoother with Lucille if you put some paint on that dry-ass drywall. And at some point, Charles get a little rap with Lucille, you know, who back at the crib from her ATL trip. He's so infatuated with Cecilia ass. This man won't stop talking about his little songbird. He get to telling Lucille. He like, I met someone. Had that sheepish grin on his grill too, you know. Like, damn, Charles, has it even been 2 days? Tells Lucille he found somebody he want to take on a date. He like, I'm just letting you know. Players got to play. Of course, Lucille gonna be Lucille. She like, ain't no ring on my goddamn finger. No mo. You a free man, play on player, She seemed to respect the game. But you could tell the news. Well, it was news she could use, right? Like in her mind, she was like, the f***. He start to walk away. She like, hold up a sec. Who is it though? Since we sharing and motherfucker. Charles had that look on his face when she called him back. Like, got him, got her, got him. He like, cool, all right, cool. Like he had just had a little win or some shit, Drops that name for the 8th time in 2 days. Charles was on one about some goddamn Cecilia. Like he was getting butterflies and all that thinking about this goddamn woman. All you got to do is walk away and pass me by. You give me butterflies. Goddamn Charles was on one. He like, the name? Well, she go by Cece. Had a little nickname for her and all of that. Like, I don't recall them introducing her as no goddamn Cece. Goddamn Charles was on one. She like, okay, now I know. And now that you done let me in, why don't you let yourself out? God damn it. Now let's go back for a second. When T popped up on Meech with Nikki and Lucille, at some point T and Meech get that rap. And T expresses his concern with how Meech shifted that weight to the Lou without his input. And Meech explains about the heat they were getting from Bryant, tells T what their next moves are, then tells T roll with it or get rolled on. Little player, like little bro'd him. T decide to roll with it. Like what the else he gonna do? At some point, T and Meech hook up with Duffy up at Duffy's spot. And they get Alexandria up in that piece, the car dealership lady, who tells them that Bryant on that hunt told him he came back with a warrant, but he ain't find nothing. Told him the only car in their fleet that was stolen was the Honda he gave Nikki. Said the associate responsible, Kenny Johnson, what they call him. Well, she let him go. Said he had a little side hustle selling stolen cars, and that one was part of the mix. Suggested that Kenny might know more than he should about their business. Gave these cats info on old Kenny, like she had a pamphlet on this mofo. Had his pictures, his addresses, where his mama stay, like that. In case they had follow-up questions, She piece about it and they decide they like her ass. Duffy volunteers to act on the intel Alexandria just gave him. Meech tell him just fine, little player, pay him to lay low until this blows over. Eventually, Duffy catches up with old Kenny, This mofo Kenny was different, wasn't he? Duffy up in Kenny's spot with a coach bag full of cash. Tells Kenny, you can take this and bounce for a bit, lay low. Win-win for everybody, player. We all get what we all want. Little player Kenny ain't getting what's happening here, at all. Like reading was not fundamental with this mofo. He like, or I can just give him your name and this all goes away. I don't know how he figured that. This mofo was the goddamn one selling stolen cars and shit. He talking about he can't leave because he can't miss EMT training. It was a gang of cash too in that coach bag. Like I'm guessing a little money he got from selling stolen cars to pay for the EMT training was less than Duffy was offering. Like you got your class money plus some. Duffy like, you dumb mofo. He like, you gonna be missing your life if you don't take this cash and get the fuck up out of here. This is do or die. You feel me? By now we have all assessed that this little mofo Kenny got to go. Like it's curtains for Big Urkel's ass. He talking about he got a whole career to think about, But before Duffy could figure out next steps, goddamn Detective Bryant start knocking at the door, calling him out by name. He like, Kenny Johnson, open up, Popo. Somehow Duffy manages to keep Kenny quiet, and both of them piece up out the side door, balcony or whatever before Bryant busts the in. Duffy took the money, the dummy, and all of that. Pieced up out of there. I don't know how Duffy managed that shit, but he did. Now, before Bryant wound up at Kenny's door, working with one of his associates in the D, Bryant found that there were 3 prints in the stolen car they bagged Nicki in. One from this cat he knows as Don Genko, which is Duffy. The second is Nicki. And the third is a ghost print, because the print owner wasn't in the system. Now, you know it ain't Meech, because Meech ain't in the system. Shit, it could be Breeze. I mean, we know his DNA was all up and through the car. And he a young cat, so he also wouldn't be in the system. But Bryant putting his eggs into focusing on this Don Genko cat, which is Duffy. And he suspects Don Genko ain't really his name. What the f*** is Don Genko? Bryant get to watching the tape from the car dealership. Sees Meech and Duffy interacting with Kenny, So now he got a face. He got a few of them. Hoping he can match one of the faces to Don Genko. And he gets to doing his police work. Finds out Kenny's name. Winds up at Kenny's spot after he can't find him at the car dealership, And after he can't find Kenny at home either, Bryant brings Alexandria into the precinct. Tells her she lied to him. Because when he visited her at the dealership, she told him she ain't sell no car to Meech. She like, I didn't sell a car to Meech. He breaks out the pic of Meech and Duffy, a.k.a. Don Genko. He like, I got Meech right here with Mr. Genko. She like, yeah, but I sold the car to Mr. Genko. Bryant like, what's his real name? She like, how the f*** would I know? Man said his name was Don Genko. Said his mama named him Don Genko. How the f*** am I supposed to know this full name ain't Don Genko? He like, well, guess what? One of your car dealership associates is missing. Kenny Johnson. Like this mofo on the milk box. Like, where he at? She like, look, I'm tired of these games. You arrested me or what? puts her hands out for Bryant to lock her up, puts her wrists out, she like, you arrested me or what? And Bryant grabs those wrists. He grabbed them wrists quick as like they was playing slap wrists or some. You know how like you play the game where you gotta slap the wrist before somebody pull them away and like he grabbed them wrists quick as slammed them down on the table, moves in real close and real calm and cool like, says to her, "B***, you grimy." He said, "B***, you grimy. And now you on the list." I'm like, oh no, not a motherfucker's list. He's like, now you on the list. Look, if you doing dirt though, for real, last thing you want to do is be on a motherfucking cop's list. A DT's list at that. Cause that mean this mofo gonna be watching you. Even if your shit is super tight, you don't want that. Not like I know. Eventually, following up on things from another angle, his fronting days come to an end with Lil Milton's pops, his new AA bromance with Abe. Abe is what they call him. He up in Abe crib, asking about shit, old shit, like the drugs and the murder, of his son. Abe like, look, mofo, cut the shit. He like, I might be poor, but I ain't dumb. He like, if you wanted info, all you had to do was ask. And they share a moment. And Bryant shares info on his loss of Lil Kevin. Then he shares a picture of Meech and Duffy. And Abe tells Bryant that Meech was at Milton's funeral. And now Bryant know Meech up to no good out in them ATL streets. Because he was probably there out of guilt. Switching gears a little bit. After T and Meech get that rap about J-Pusha. After they get that church rap with they mama and Big Dre 7500. At some point they go and check their new friend out, Purdy. At a little video shoot she got going on. Getting her Aaliyah on. I want you to rock the boat, rock the boat, rock the boat. Work the middle, change positions, new position. And while Purdy doing her thing, Meech sees a little shorty named Maria over at the snack table, looking over a limited option of food choices. Funyuns, Fritos and shit, Goes over, shoots his shot. Finds out she's a friend of Purdy's. And they get a little rap, leaves her with his number. Then steps away to get back to checking Purdy out. Her goddamn manager, label head, producer, and damn person owner. Her homie, lover, friend, Sterl. He up on the scene, all in the video. All in the spotlight and doing the most, according to Meech. And after seeing him diss Purdy at the Platinum Palace, and all this foolishness he doing up in here, well, they get to labeling his ass a clown. Homie, what they call him. And at some point, she wraps up the shoot, catches up with T and Meech, and that catch up is interrupted by the aforementioned clown, who comes over in dick mode. He like, who y'all supposed to be? Last night, Last night changed it all. Last night I really had a ball. He looking at these like they kid and play. He's kid on play. He looking like T and Meech like they about to do a goddamn kid and play kick step and shit. And after they're introduced, he like, nah, I ain't never heard of y'all. Ain't shake T's extended hand. Straight dick mode, you know. Tells Purdy to come holler at him when she done with her fan club. Then some ladies come over. Start taking Purdy whole look off her ass. Chains, bracelets. Shit, I thought they was going to take her hair at some point. And Meech and T find that in addition to the cars they rented for this video shoot for her, her whole look was rented. And she got to pay that back to Trell and the label. But she good with that, you know, because Trell going to make sure that she blow up, you know. Like a puffer fish, no doubt. Don't look like nobody can tell Purdy nothing about no goddamn Trell. You know, she don't want to hear it. She thanked the Flennory brothers for coming out. Then she go behind a damn video fan. This fan was like industrial size. She go behind a goddamn fan and does some drugs. You know, got her little bump and all that. You know, she like. Getting that powderly courage. She went behind that fan like she had some goddamn privacy and like the fan was in another damn room or some. That fan was big as. T and Meech piece up out of there. Get back to Duffy's. Talking about starting a record label for two reasons. They see how Purdy being taken advantage of. Plus they love music. They like, one, we gonna do this to help the artists. But two, we gonna do this to wash the dope money. You know, makes sense to me. Fast forward a day or so later. Before T heads back to the D, J-Pusha come through to Meech's crib on invite from Meech. And they all up in there, champagne sipping. Cause it was Tuesday and shit, you know. T tell Pusha he gonna send some of his cats up to the loo to get some of that work, you know, so his crew can eat. You know, they done finally found J-Pusha. And they want to get their cut so they can sell some drugs and eat. J-Pusha tell him, be my guest. But it's only like 2.5 bricks left, you know. How the f*** you gonna have all that weight and have 2.5 bricks left? He said that like he was talking about some goddamn Ritz crackers and shit. He like, you welcome to him. But it ain't nothing but crumbs left, player. Like, mofo, what? Like, this mofo done ramsacked through the dope. Pusha like, not only did I sell my portion, I sold some of y'all's, you know. So y'all wouldn't have to do that work. I did y'all a favor. I got y'all money, though, you know. J-Pusha ain't give a damn about nobody else eating. Not on T team. Not on Meech team. T ready to break a Clydesdale hoof up and Pusha ass clean off up in his ass. Meech calmly pulled T to the side. Tries to rationalize the f***ery happening here. But they both agree that Pusha broke the chain of command and they let him know. But that was about it. Meech like, nah, let his ass live, you know. J-Pusha like, my bad, I was just doing what I thought Meech would do. T pieces up out the A, heads back to the D, catches up with Markesha. And he tell her Pusha sold all the weight. She ain't trying to hear none of that shit. He like, what you want me to do? And they decide they're going to step on it a little bit, So she would have a little something for this cat, Isaac Roberts, her first play. And they get them packages ready, head out to meet with Mr. Hanky, up at this diner. But the meetup spot was full of narcos, like it was a sting mission. And Markesha get a little lesson on scoping out a meetup, scoping out the sting. Like you see all them white cats hanging around up in this diner, not dining. These motherfuckers ain't even got a fork at the table. Like this mofo Isaac Roberts trying to set us up. At some point she peep what T peep. And they get the up out of there. Get back to the crib. And T get a call from Meech, who gives T the bad news Loco just gave him, which was that work gonna have to stay going through the loo for now. Now this on top of the fact that they just heard that this motherfucker J-Pusha done sold all the goddamn work. Now that work gonna have to keep going to the loo through his ass. Meech tell Loco and T that J-Pusha gonna stay running point. Even Loco like, you trust this motherfucker? For now, Meech still rocking with him. And T really wasn't feeling this news, of course. But Meech ain't really seemed to give a damn, And T's starting to feel some kind of way about that. Feel like Meech is changing a little bit, Ever since he came back from Mexico, getting away from that us against the world mentality, Or like the us was expanding and pushing T out a little bit. And of course, Markesha started filling his head with some shit, selling him her agenda. She like, Meech ain't You got cats here loyal to you like me and who? The work Markesha been doing. She might have given a good suggestion or two, but work put in, nah. Loyalty, nah. But continue to plant the seed, she does. Tells him Meech ain't gotta know nothing. You do your boss moves that benefit you. And he get on that. Doing shit without Meech notification or back to that shit. Meets up with B-Mickie. Tells him he gonna call on him when needed. To which Hoop is not feeling this at all. Hoop like, motherfucker, I'm here. How you gonna call on B-Mickie for some shit? He ain't even in our crew. T tell Hoop to chill. Tells him that B-Mickie is disposable. And Hoop, you not. So chill. It's some nasty work brewing right here, Bound to go bad in some form or another. And we just gonna have to see, But we love it nonetheless. Till next time.